Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of One Pittsfield with Mayor Marchetti. In just a few moments, I'll be joined by Stephen and Evan Valenti from Stephen Valenti's Closing, but first I want to share a few updates like we normally do. Over the past couple weeks, I've hosted several meetings and attended several community events, and I just want to give you a quick recap. I attended the virtual monthly Mass Municipal Association Mayor's meeting. We talked about Cannabis Commission and we talked about social consumption sites during that meeting and where the legislation is progressing and where we as communities feel this belongs or doesn't belong into our community. So there's a lot more of that subject to be coming. Berkshire Peak held their annual resource picnic and they invited me to attend. It's always great to associate myself with residents and hear their concerns regarding some of the issues in the city. We attended the Ordinance and Rules meeting where we discussed several items, including a new flag ordinance that we're looking to establish in the city of Pittsfield, looking to update the drinking in public ordinance to allow the police more leeway and upholding that regulation, and also we talked in very great detail the proposed camping ban ordinance. One of the things that I found very interesting about that is what it's really boiling down to is finding a way to really enforce the criminal activity that's taking place that may or may not be associated with some of those activities, but we really have got to spend some time and focus on the business perspective as well as what can we do to make improvements in the lives of the homeless. I did my monthly radio appearance on Live 95.9 with Marjo and Slater, and very much looking, or have been by then because we're recording in advance, participating in Pittsfield's 4th of July parade. Just one acknowledgement in this meeting, and we want to recognize Dory and Ginger for recently celebrating their 10th anniversary of being in business. And so as a reminder, I love to do these kind of things during my show. So if your business or organization is celebrating a milestone, if you call the office or email the office at mayorsoffice@cityofpittsfield.org, we will make note of it and make an announcement of that during the show. I would also say quickly, and I'll reiterate again later, we are now past our department head interviews and we're now taking the show on the road, as you would say, and talking to local businesses. So if you're a local business that wants to be part of the show in the future, you can also reach out to the mayor's office and we will get you into a schedule to be able to do. So first, let's talk about the upcoming council meeting. And so as of now, we're on summer schedule. So the city council only meets once a month during the months of July and August. July 7th city council meeting. I actually think it's July 8th city council meeting. I want to highlight a couple of things. We are appointing Yami Colazzo as Assistant Assessor to the Board of Assessors. We are reappointing Alyssa Costa, Kenneth Ferris, and Maria Lacardi to the Mobile Home Rent Control Board. The reappointments of Abigail Allard and Denise Ruskowski to the Cultural Council, and the reappointments of Jim Conant, William Travis, and Brendan Sharon to the School Building Needs Commission. There are 4 grants on the agenda, one for $21,111, one for $8,380, one for $19,045, and one for $149,614, all which have to do with the airport and looking at the ability to reconstruct or extend a taxiway or taxi lanes at the airport. We talked about the issues that we were talking about OEDR and the drinking in public ordinance, and the flag ordinance is coming back. The camping ordinance has been tabled. We are working on some modifications based on requests from the members of the city council. So that concludes my update. And as I said in the beginning of the show, we have transitioned the show from City Hall and the department heads to getting out into the community and meeting business owners who make up the fabric of both our downtown and our community. And so I want to turn to our guests, Stephen and Evan Valenti, and thank you guys for joining me. I know that we're here earlier than what you need to be, but I think it's important that we take the show on the road and highlight the business community as much as we can, because we all know, whether we're a resident or a commercial business owner, taxes are a major issue for all of us, and I think whatever we can do to highlight the businesses, I think is important. So I know when I think of downtown, Valenti's is one of the places that always comes to mind. Your business has been a staple in the community, and you've been here for 42 years. So when I was a teenager walking North Street, you were here. So it's something that for a lot of my life I've seen. And I'm familiar with your store, and I think others are, but for the folks at home that may not, talk to me about your journey and how you got here and how you started the business.
Well, I had started working on North Street in 1965 at J.J. Newberry's as a stock boy. And from there, I went to a great place, Bessie Clark, and worked there for 4 years. And then after that period of time in 1971, I went to another great store called the Mike's Berkshire Hill Shop, or the Berkshire Hill Shop, which is just up on the corner. And I worked there for 8 years. And then they decided to close, and I was hired immediately by the Wachowski family who owned Brothership in Biba, and worked there for 3 years from 79 to 1982. And in 82, I was approached by the Morgenstern family to buy into their men's store, Morgenstern's Men's Clothing. And I ran it with them for a year, and I had an option to buy them out after year one. And I figured after working for 3 different individuals, fourth with being them, I thought it was time that I go out on my own. So in 1983, June, we hung up the Stephen Valenti sign, and 42 years later, we're still here. And my son has decided that he's really been in the business since he was, an infant. When you own a business, you bring it home every night. So he's heard about it a long time, and he's going to take my place and take it, maybe, hopefully, at least another 25, 30 years down the road. So I'm pleased that, it's like a parent's dream when you get to have your children live in your town where they grew up, and it's even a bigger dream when you can have one of your children kind of take over your store.
So let me just follow up on that then, Evan. Sounds like you were born and raised here.
You could say that, yeah.
And now you want to carry on a tradition. Talk to me about what that feels like.
Oh, there's some pressure with that. There's some pressure that comes with trying to keep the things that made us who we are over the past 40 years and keep that going, but also make improvements on that. I love, working with my father every day, working with one of my best friends every day is like a real pleasure for me. I've learned from one of the best you could possibly ask to learn from in terms of running and operating a store in a small community setting. But there's some nerves with running your own business. I think that you can probably back me up on that. There's day-to-day things that stress you out for sure, but at the same time, like, I'm very excited. I find it like an honor to be the next person to keep this going and to serve this community in a multiple of different ways, and trying to meet new people and develop new relationships with people the next 25, 30, 40, whatever, how many years it is. I'm just excited to be here, to learn from him, to be a part of this particular community, and to keep life moving in the same direction.
So let's talk about what your store specializes in. So maybe 10 years ago, folks would say this is just completely a men's clothing store. There were no other options. And besides the product line, I think you specialize in something else. Talk to me about what that is.
Well, our original mission statement when we went to the bank 42 years ago and borrowed money to start this business, we borrowed money at 18.5%. There are some people that do remember that great number. It was to have a store with up-to-date fashion in a warm, comfortable atmosphere, and back it up with the best customer service that anyone could ever have. I don't really think we've deviated from that at all. I think the best thing we can hang our hat on is our customer service. If we have to go to someone's home, or because they can't come here, we take the show on the road just like you're doing today. We've got numerous examples of that. We are probably one of the only places where if you need a shirt in a hurry, or you buy a suit and it comes with it, and you pick out a shirt and a tie with it, we iron your shirt so that when you pick up your suit, your shirt is ready to wear, rather than trying to find out where did I put the iron, where's the ironing board, at home. We probably iron anywhere from 6 to 12 shirts every day. We try to do things that other people can't do. Now that we're into this age of shopping online, I say to people, we do things that Amazon can't do. We deliver to people's houses immediately. We'll go to their business. It'll be hanging on a hanger instead of in a box. We'll press shirts. We'll do the things that stores did maybe years ago, and we try to bring that back. And I think Evan tries to teach a whole bunch of new people those kind of things that they never experienced before. So I think I don't care what business you might be in, it's those kinds of things that happened years ago that we're now, we hold our hat on and say, we need to continue, to do the things that people were used to years ago. So.
And I purposely didn't use the word customer service because I wanted you to put your own definition to that. And so let's just talk about how many employees you have. Because every time I come in here, I see a large amount of staff for what I would consider a small business. And so let's just talk about your staffing.
We have a really great full-time staff. Now everybody gets 2 days off a week, which is wonderful. I mean, there's been times where you and I only get Sundays off, and then we're working 6 days a week. We've hired some people to make that work, but we have 4 really good core members of our full-time staff between myself, my father, Robert, and Cam, who do a fantastic job of just kind of filling in the gap, so to speak, of trying to figure out, if this person's doing this, how am I most effective to help them and serve them. We're, I would say, a pretty great team all the way around. We do have some part-time help. Nikki does a spectacular job with us Mondays and Tuesdays to, again, take over some responsibilities as him and I try and recover from the weekend and try and figure out where we need to add certain things. She can basically run the store herself, and she's been a component of this store early in our lifespan of running a store, and has come back to us to help us out. But we're really 4 solid core members who are here every single day of the week, except for Sundays, to take care of everything we possibly need. And what I love is the excitement that we get from multitudes of people that are like, hey, if you ever need help with something, here's my number, here's my resume. Don't feel scared to reach out if you ever need help, because this looks like a really fun place to work. I mean, you get that all the time, especially from younger people. I mean, that's what's really exciting to me, is like this younger generation really cares about dressing up and how they look and presenting themselves a certain way. And as they come in here and learn who we are and learn what this business is, we get a little bit of feedback from people that say, hey, this looks like a pretty cool place. Maybe I want to, work here a little bit to understand the industry a little bit more. I find that to be the most flattering thing that could possibly happen.
Talk to me about, you use the word about your line of clothing, and fashionable, I think is what you kind of said. Talk to me about how you determine what fashionable is, because you're talking to a person that you need to dress me, right? Because if
well, you're a lot of fun to dress.
If
you're out of a lot of people that come in here, you're a little more forward. You don't mind a fancier shirt, a patterned jacket. I mean,
and that's kind of what I'm reflecting at. That personally, I would consider myself a plain Jane when it comes to clothing, but yet I get attracted to the wild designs and kind of like that. So how do you know when you're looking at something whether or not it's just a wild design or it's a wild design that would sell? Because you're looking at a whole wide range of ages for your clientele, I'm going to assume. And so some of the stuff that you have is going to be like, whoa, that's too old for me, or whoa, that's too young for me. So How do you go about picking out that stuff?
I think we put our heads together. I mean, we go to market. Our main market is the Boston Collective, where there's 80 to 100 exhibitors there, and we walk around and we look at things together. And I might see something, for example, a chambray shirt that I grew up with, and Evan looks at it, goes, I don't get it, and vice versa. He might see something, and I say, I don't get it. But we put our heads together and come up with a plan that says, let's try this in our store and see how it goes. Most of the time, 90-something% of the time, we tend to agree. And when we see an item right away, we go like, wow, that's going to do great for us. And, sometimes we're early on picking something out. I'd rather be a little early than a little late. Sometimes it's just where it's placed in the store, and it might not sell at all where it is, and then you move it to another section, and all of a sudden a week later they're all gone. I mean, it's a tricky business. I mean, we have to pick things out a year in advance, because then from the sample, it goes back to the guy that buys the buttons, buys the fabric, and how much quantity does he have to buy, and then they pick a factory to make it. So it usually ends up on our shelf pretty much a year later. And our job is to pick out how many smalls, how many mediums, how many larges we want. Our size range is always changing. We do it together.
Yeah, I would say Instagram and just the growth of social media has made this a little bit easier, I think, because you can track trends coming from different parts of the world. We often look at places like Milan and the UK, Africa, Asia. I mean, there are certain markets that kind of dictate where fashion is going, and with the ability of Instagram or TikTok or Pinterest or Twitter, you can find ways to see what's coming and say, okay, what's the Berkshire County version of that? Like, there's an example of where I was seeing safari jackets all over high-end men's fashion all across Europe, and starting to trickle in the U.S. And some of these garments are bespoke garments, and they're beautiful, they're handmade, and they're crazy money. But I looked at him, I said, there's got to be a version of this that we can sell in Berkshire County. Now, we went to this men's show in Boston and said to some of our vendors, hey, I know you're going to show me some stuff. I got that. You got a safari jacket in your collection somewhere? Found one, brought it in, sold all of them. But we didn't buy a ton of them because we weren't quite sure how it would be received. All of them went. And that was one of those examples of, like, I saw it somewhere. I thought it was interesting. We found a vendor that fits what we're looking for, brought it in, had some people fall in love with it, and it was a big success. And one of the other things that we do is sometimes in a specific item like that that's really trendy, we won't buy a ton of it, because if everybody's got one, it kind of takes away how special the item is. Like if you're walking around, like you bought a jacket from us that's got this great Sherpa collar on it. If you saw every other guy on the street with that jacket, I'm like, this jacket's not cool. Everybody's got one. I want to be unique and different and special. So sometimes when we jump out and not stick our neck out, but try and grab something different and unique, we don't like to bring a lot of it in because it takes away from how special it is.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
My old boss, Jack Paley, always said, if you fall in love with something, buy 3. Buy a medium, a large, and an extra large. You're the medium, so if it falls on its face,
Right.
you can take the medium home.
Right.
Just find a large and an extra large. But that's the way we look at things too. If we're not quite sure, but we really love it, we buy 3. And if the 3 go quick, we might buy 3 more. But it's not a bad thing to experiment.
That makes sense. So you've been longtime business owner downtown Pittsfield. If I was to say to you, as you know, I'm trying to make sure all our storefronts are filled in downtown Pittsfield. You've been here for 42 years. You've been here for some time, but not 42 years.
Nope.
What advice would you give to a brand new business owner that wanted to open a business in downtown Pittsfield today?
I think what's nice about opening a business in downtown Pittsfield or any downtown, it's the community feeling that's down here. I mean, people that I talk to that have businesses elsewhere don't share the feeling that because downtown is a little more compact and buildings are building after building after building, it's like a neighborhood, and there's a lot of closeness that is shared every day. You know, like when I walk to the bank to make the deposit, I'll tend to run into half a dozen people along the way that I know or I can share conversation with. There's a very warm feeling about being in a downtown. I mean, I've only worked in a downtown my whole life, but I've talked to people that have businesses on the outside, or they were here and had moved elsewhere. One of the things they always say to me is, I miss that closeness, I miss that friendship, the bantering back and forth. How's your day going? So I think that's a huge aspect, and also downtowns, in many respects, offer a better opportunity for a new business because the rental structure tends to be less. The visibility is bigger. And I think that's one of the things why I chose to hang my shingle here. Rents were reasonable. I think they still are. It's a good place to get started. And there's so many other businesses that are around that will help to get people by your location easier than if it's somewhere else.
Yeah, if you any advice for someone starting a new business, I'm always narrow your focus. You know, when you stretch yourself too thin, it's hard to be really good at a lot of things. But if you're really good at one or two things, people will say, oh, I need that one thing. I'm only going there because they're really good at that. And as you get comfortable being really good at one or two things, then you kind of broaden your horizon a little bit. And again, we always talk about, customer service. I have this weird thing where the more I work here, the more I understand. I do work in the clothing business, but I really work in the people business. It's really about developing relationships with the people that are your clients, and not just transactional. It's more about understanding who they are as people, getting to know them, understanding their history. Because when you talk with people and develop relationships, there's a trust and a bond that's built in between people. And for the most part, I would say most successful businesses are built on return customers, not just one-time transactions. And it's impossible to get repeat business if you're not good at developing a relationship with another person.
I think that's some pretty good advice.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, we're almost out of time, but I think there's one more piece that I think is important. We're down to like a couple minutes. Love your commercials. Wish we could talk about that a little bit, but we don't have time. Your clothing sometimes appears in the most surprising places. And recently, I understand it showed up someplace. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, it's Paul Simon was asked to play at the White House for the Japanese
Prime Minister,
Emperor.
A year or two ago, I want to say.
Not quite a year, and we have friends up in North Adams, Steve Sauve, who's worked on some of our instruments, and a very famous musician, Mark Stewart, walked into his shop to get something tuned, and he said to Steve, I'm playing at the White House in a couple of days. I don't have anything to wear. And so Steve said, well, that's easy. Just go down to Pittsfield, go down to Valenti's in Pittsfield, and they'll take care of you. So all of a sudden this man walks in and introduces himself. I'm Mark Stewart, and I'm playing at the White House in a couple of days. I need a tuxedo. And we just, whatever we were doing, we were just jumping up and down and got him dressed overnight and sent him to the White House. And what happened is he was very well dressed and got asked a lot of questions on, where'd you get your gear? And he was nice enough to tell the AP that Steve Valenti dresses me, and it went all over the country. So, that's what's great about this business. It's like every day, I called Evan yesterday. He was day off, and I said, you won't believe who I have in the store. I have the producer of in the League of Our Own, is in our store. I mean, he's done quite a few movies, but you know, he started out. I asked him, you know, I fit him for some clothing, and you know, what do you do, or what have you done? Because he seemed a little older than me, and he said, "Oh, well, I'm a movie producer. I've done over 60 movies." So we got into a nice conversation, and then I said, "Well, gee, you know, did you move here from somewhere?" He goes, "No, I'm a '61 graduate of St. Joseph's High School," and I was like, "Wow," you know.
Yeah, right.
So I mean, you know, 2 weeks ago we had another famous actor in the store from Shawshank Redemption, and then you know, and then we had an incident the other day where you know a little different spin, and we helped this family out. Had some hard times, and that sent us home feeling like $1 million. You know, every day it's just what's cool. I think about this business now, and I get to share it with my son, is that every day is an adventure.
Right.
And you never know who's going to walk in the door. And, you know, it's just, you know, it's why I probably like your office. You can write a book about how many nice people come in. I think my new slogan and our new slogan here is that when someone walks in this door, we want to make sure when they leave, they're in a better mood than when they came in.
Perfect.
And that's our new. If we had to make a sign now above that door, that's what it is now.
Motto.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you guys for joining me today, and also thank you for all of the work that you do in the downtown.
It's our pleasure, Mayor.
For all you at home, thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoy your summer, and we'll see you again in August. Thanks, and have a good month.